On a cultural level, Star Trek has meant more than anyone would have ever expected. That's something you can't know until a good chunk of time has passed. Clearly, the most important impact that Star Trek has had on society is the catalyst it has been in making people excited about the future. These days, that is an anomaly. Here is one of the basic rules of the universe. Dream positive and big, get positive and big. Dream dysfunctional, get dysfunctional. If you haven't learned that yet, get after it. So why is Star Trek so powerful, and why does it resonate so soundly with its fans? For one thing, it's about ideas. It's about surprising people with new ways to look at things, sometimes really big things. God, petty nationalism, the waste of war. The idea that love is not black or white, but comes in many shades. You know, Star Trek was saying those things long before it was fashionable. And for Star Trek to remain as smart as it has been, it needs to continue to ask uncomfortable questions. Because that is where the best Star Trek, the best drama, comes from. There was a time where I thought that maybe my job on Star Trek was a little on the frivolous side, playing with spaceships and ray guns. Then I witnessed the stream of visitors to the show. Mars rover drivers from JPL, astronauts, heads of state, Ronald Reagan, the King of Jordan, the Dalai Lama. I was there when Stephen Hawking asked to be lifted out of his wheelchair and put in the captain's chair. I can't tell you how many times scientists have told me that they became who they are because of Star Trek. But there's an even more basic and primal motivator designed into Star Trek by its creator, which has grown its influence and popularity exponentially: continuity. The engine block of its fan devotion, and something that has been cultivated carefully and over time. Continuity, the state or quality of being continuous, an uninterrupted succession or flow, a coherent whole. As Psychology Today said, familiarity breeds enjoyment and comfort. Star Trek is comfort. Comfort is knowing that your favorite meal, artist, music, friend is there for you. You count on a delightful flavor, a brushstroke, a riff, a smile. Spock found comfort in his friend Kirk's ironclad continuity of character and described it thusly.
If I let go of a hammer on a planet that has a positive gravity, I need not see it fall to know that it has, in fact, fallen.
Spock counted on the continuity of his captain's thought processes and likened them to the steadfastness of gravity itself. Continuity sums up Star Trek and its half-century of logic-defying success. It is the joy of knowing its history, its taste, and its texture. Knowing it will be there as sure as gravity, like a favorite song whose rhythm and melody you anticipate, and ultimately the joy that accompanies the fulfillment of that promise. Part of the reason for the enormous success of the Marvel Cinematic Universe is its incredible inner logic and continuity. The spotty success of the DC film universe has been its unpredictable adherence to inner logic. By allowing every new director to reinvent characters based on personal tastes, they have hobbled a potentially monstrous franchise. Outstanding quality control and inner logic supersedes the director at Marvel and is the reason it has become the cinematic juggernaut that it is. Roddenberry knew how to grow the Star Trek fan base. He understood the power of engendering a proprietary attitude in its fans. He did this by working to make sure that they felt a part of the show and that they were not just spectators. He did it by making sure that the melody and rhythm fans anticipated were there, and, like a favorite song, resulted in that all-important feel-good endorphin cascade. In the seminal work, The Making of Star Trek by Stephen E. Whitfield, Roddenberry referred to it as the believability factor, and it applies equally to technology, characters, and the tapestry of its history. As a calculated plan to cement and assure the future success of Star Trek, Roddenberry suggested that Michael and Denise Okuda organize a compendium of facts, aesthetics, and historical pivot points so that the show's writers and ultimately its fans would believe in this sprawling universe, engage their pituitary glands, and bask in the warm cascade of endorphins. It is the irresistible charm and promise of being able to invest your time in understanding it both dramatically and aesthetically and be assured of the validity of that time. Sacrificing consistency would erode the willingness of fans to commit to invest in it by buying books, blueprints, and model kits. In other words, that sense of validity gives you permission to indulge yourself. Another no less calculated and powerful endorphin getter is the joy of being able to strike up a conversation with any devotee in any part of the world and be able to discuss, debate, and speculate the details. This is possible because of Star Trek's carefully built and adhered to inner logic and continuity. This intuitive architecture is the foundation of its magic. That foundation supports all 600 plus hours. Similarly, the visual aesthetic of Star Trek carefully nurtured a sense of reality and continuity by avoiding Starfleet designs that are science fiction-y and flatly based on what is perceived as cool. Cool for cool's sake is cotton candy. There can be no substance to it, and it cannot withstand the test of time. Design practicality, form following function, and dogged adherence to established design history is one of Trek's superpowers. The best Starfleet designs are those that exhibit a basic understanding of real-world technology. The more the audience examines it, the more layers it reveals, the more evidence it has been thought out, and the more fun and interactive it becomes. Designers like Okuda, Sturbeck, and Probert know where it's all going, how it comes apart, and what it does. We relish that part of it, and that's what gives it its pedigree. The fun and linchpin of the Starfleet design ethic, essential to its ability to capture the imagination, is, once again, consistent inner logic. Fans can identify a phaser strip, a characteristic warp nacelle from a specific era, an airlock, or a lifeboat hatch. This is the sport. Fans crave being in the know. Devotees love learning the ins and outs. How stringently production adheres to such contrivances will be equaled by a return in fan devotion. Works such as the Star Trek Encyclopedia and the various tech manuals make writing and designing for Star Trek that much more difficult. Trek writing staffs have long felt hogtied by what was perceived as restrictive rules and regulations. But consider this. Director-writer Nicholas Meyer, a man credited with saving Star Trek with The Wrath of Khan, once said, "Creativity demands boundaries and thrives on restrictions." Sentimentality is powerful and something that Star Trek has built on for half a century. In Star Trek's second pilot, Where No Man Has Gone Before, Sulu says,
"That is like having a penny, doubling it every day. In a month, you'll be a millionaire."
That sums up Star Trek fandom, but you need that first penny in order to make it work. Sentimentality is impossible to achieve without continuity. Continuity has long been a Star Trek god, and it has imbued a seemingly endlessly durable universe with supernatural longevity. Its success is a complex tapestry. But it is a fickle god, and if you pull out certain threads, the tapestry may unravel. Continuity and sentimentality is the fragile thread which runs through Star Trek, giving it its tensile strength, but it is also the fire in which it burns. This magic architecture requires reliability and steadfast nurturing. Fans must be able to count on Star Trek, otherwise they will learn not to count on it, lose faith, get discouraged, and become cynical. We've all experienced the power of continuity. Muscles aren't made overnight. They are formed through repetition and consistency. It is the same for the muscles of the mind, spirit, and yes, Star Trek and its fandom. It is a decidedly universal constant. Human beings are continuity and comfort-seeking organisms, and we respond to those things in everything we do. This is the cornerstone of Star Trek. It is the joy of knowing its history, its taste, and its texture dramatically and aesthetically, and knowing it will be there like the Rock of Gibraltar and as sure as gravity.
Paramount is pleased to bring you our feature presentation.
I'd like you to take a look at this gun. It's handcrafted to my specifications. Balance is excellent. The trigger responds to a pressure of 1 ounce.
I'm quite familiar with the piece. Perhaps we could talk about this?
I rarely draw it unless I mean to use it. Care for a demonstration?
Freeze program. Was she everything I promised, sir?
Okay, I figure we stall about as much as we can here. So now we're just waiting for Doug to show up. I have reminded him, so we'll see what happens. But in the meantime, for those that are not quite familiar, the guy playing Paladin in that little holodeck recreation was Doug Drexler. And we're in the tap dancing routine of our show today, so we're just waiting for a response here. I sent him a reminder a while ago and end the link.
It's all him. If a guest is late for me, I don't start until they show up. But it's all him.
Yeah, but we're already 15 minutes in, and I got enough problem getting an audience as it is. So it's like, let's just throw a few things up here, and we'll just wait for someone to show up here that we can talk to. But hopefully,
some people live by fashionably late, and some people are ditzy. So I always get anxious.
I
always get anxious.
We can only stall so long, okay? So in the meantime, my recently acquired lower decks combat, just go through repainting it. Got the black on the edges here and the chrome thing, because normally the color is normally just sort of a gray pewter. That's not going to work. Got to get some color on it. But started off with my little reading of an essay that Doug wrote a while back regarding the importance of continuity. I said, right now we are waiting for their honored guest to show up.
Waiting as patiently as we can.
Mm-hmm.
Him more than me.
Again, it's broadcast. It's live TV. Things happen. And outside, said I think yesterday afternoon, no problem. What same time period? Same time is good. Great. Reschedule. Give me a thumbs up. And then here's the link. And ready when you are. And now we're waiting for him to get reminded. Oh yeah, I was going to be doing this live stream. Shit.
Always.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I could make myself a little more visible pretty easily here. Yeah. Switch over to this, or even do that.
Lights are good.
Be more visible.
Yes, lights are good. We can actually see what's going on.
See?
That works. Yeah.
I can be more visible, but I don't like a lot of light. I don't tend to, no.
One of the key things we're doing.
Toxicity. Hello, Iron Inquisitor. Hello, Anime. Hello, RC and staff. Please.
So we're going to see how long we can stall here for a while. Yeah. And again, in the interest, we got to keep this on Star Trek. Okay, we're not going to go on the side issues. Okay. I've already been doing that with that other side. So I don't know why the camera.
Oh, we always have this weird tendency.
Yes.
I could actually go into Star Trek as part of inspiration, because technology and all that was always a part of what led me towards my art and towards my photography, was this love of the technology advances that was shown there.
Yeah. Now, the one thing that Doug has pointed out, like the producers come in and think, "Oh, we're going to read." No, Star Trek now is so involved and so detailed of all the different things. It really is a period piece. Whatever era you're doing, you got to be consistent with that period. Or crusty old guys like me are going to point it out that that's not right. Like
that's why I had such an issue with Enterprise, because they used too much of the modern style with the ships and stuff, and what was supposed to be even before the ships of the 60s.
Enterprise walked a fine line, but a lot of what they got caught on was they violated fan assumptions of what that era were like. There really was actually nothing really nailed down.
No, the ships looked too advanced compared to the other stuff.
Well, yeah,
they made it so hyper advanced it didn't look right.
Yeah.
I mean, there was fan assumptions. There was some things that didn't make sense, like having a Vulcan acting like a mouthy little slut didn't make sense. Let's be honest. There were problems that were legitimate, and there were problems that were partly fan assumptions, and there were problems that were some people just didn't like Bakula into Star Trek. Let's be honest. Me myself, I couldn't get into it because the art style was so contrary to what should come before the original series.
Yeah,
it completely dysfunctioned my eyes.
Yeah. Well, and that was something that, at least on the production side, they were aware of the problem they were in. They can't make it look like, it was made in 66. They got to go for, that is where they knew they had to bridge the gap somewhere. So it's like, okay, we need to make it look more advanced today, but we can't look more advanced than the original series. So they're trying to let's try and bridge the gap here.
That I agree, Iron. The style and technology looked like it fell between them, not before.
Yeah.
And that was the big issue I had. That I literally would rather shoot myself than listen to that intro. Why couldn't they have stuck to the classically styled intros that were so beautiful in the other series? And Wag, that's a digressive point.
Yeah,
I know, but
they were
but
trying.
We're nerds. We tend to hyperanalyze our shows. Let's just face it.
It's part of the fans. It's part of being a fan. You nitpick.
I do my best,
Yeah.
and I work hard, and I love Trek. There were inspirations I took from growing up a Trekkie. We didn't have shit. We grew up poor as hell, but I had hope for the future and technology, partly with Star Trek, which we didn't even have the house. We had to go watch at family places because we were freaking living third world shit in our home. But I still remember the theme song could have been less cringe if they'd actually just done it as a song and had the band put a little more work into it and not thrown it together like a theme song. The way they did came off really irritating and cringe.
Well, the fact it was also a reused song because the way that worked was Rick Berman went to Diane Warren and said, "This is the kind of we want to do a song this time, an actual theme song, and not just tune." They're trying something different. What? Well, anyway, he wanted. This is what he kind of wanted the song to. And Diane Warren, I've already written that, and for Patch Adams, it's in the sound. And you guys already have rights to it, so that was. So it was kind of partially a cost cutting thing, and also, they already got the song. There we go. So Rod Stewart did it on the Patch Adams soundtrack. Some gal did it at a country signal. I heard that on the Muzak machine at work all the damn time.
I was this one
that one never would have worked. The calling wherever you go, because you listen to the words, it doesn't fit.
Okay, never mind.
It works fine for the commercials, but when you start to, no.
As I was starting to say, I was this one who the Trek era to me died with the beginning of Enterprise because I couldn't get into it. However, I give more forgiveness to it after looking at the train wreck that we're stuck with now. So there's a ballast line, but I still can't watch it. I can't get into it.
Voyager and Enterprise have gotten a lot better looking now.
Voyager was pushing the edge where there were some good episodes, but most of it was just irritating. And the fact that they hired a known fake Indian to write bullshit native pop culture really pissed me off.
Okay, that one I wasn't aware of.
Yeah, the guy who wrote all the native culture for Chakotay was a known fake. And none of it's real. It was fucking made up so he could get attention.
Well, on the standpoint of, Chakotay's tribe was sort of a made-up thing. It's like, okay, well...
Yes, but it was supposed to be based in actual native culture. They even advertised it as such. That this was supposed to be a push to give honor to natives.
Yeah.
And then they hired a known fake who made up lies about the different tribes.
Yeah.
So that was a big contention for some of us.
Yeah.
But...
I said they may have done it because, it's not supposed to be a real tribe anyway, so what the hell?
No, they didn't know at the time.
Yeah.
They didn't look into it. They just went, this guy's got writing credits and says that he's native. Let's just hire him.
Okay.
They didn't dig deep, and they even admitted it later.
Yeah.
And it is a contention line for a lot of us because it was, if you're going to do this and do this as an honor to us, do it right, pay homage correctly.
Get some actual native writers.
Get some actual native culture in there.
And there are some actual native, like the guy who did animated episode How Sharper Than a Serpent's Tooth was an actual native, I think.
God, how fucking old are you again, Iron? Oh.
Middle school?
I say that with love. You're my boy, but middle school?
In 2010.
What are you, early 20s?
That's 13 years ago.
Early 20s, mid 20s? God, I'm feeling old again.
Yeah, 20. Oh, good Lord.
Oh my God.
Younger than Indy.
Okay. I'm sorry, I got thrown off. I didn't realize you were that young.
I was about that young when Next Gen started. Okay.
I was
20s,
in middle school to teenage when I was watching Deep Space Nine and Voyager, which is mid 90s.
Yeah, I was about 23 or so when Next Gen premiered. I was 2.5 when the original series was run on NBC. Okay.
Yes, but we all know you're old. I mean,
yes, established by the
Okay, so we learn new things every day, right?
Yes, we need Drexler to get his ass in here, so I'm not the oldest person here. Okay.
My anxieties are super high, but if for some reason this doesn't work out, once you get things figured out with him, let me know.
Well, actually,
because I know it happens. People forget things, they get schedules mixed up, stuff like that. I've had ones fall through before, and they were genuinely sorry and came back and did it with me later. So
yeah, let's see. He's not even showing up as online at the moment.
See, I hate television wrestling.
Yeah,
I loathe it for a lot of reasons. Go his commenting time compared to WWE.
Well, that's why The Rock did a cameo on Voyager.
First of all, it's not wrestling. I know some people think it's a hot button contention point, but it's not. No. Whether or not you want to say whether it's fake or real or all that, it is. Everybody knows it's scripted. Yes, there's physical violence in sports that are done in it, but it is scripted. Everybody knows that.
Yeah, it's prearranged. Put that way, because there's some improv here and there, but yeah.
Put that aside. If you want to focus on the athletic technique, it's not wrestling. Wrestling is a very specific sport with specific behaviors, with specific guidelines, with specific skills.
Yeah, Greco-Roman wrestling. Watch the Olympics.
I did wrestling. Wrestling is not what you see on TV.
You know, interview with Chris Benoit, I think it was, or what they always had problem when they were going up someone who actually was an actual wrestler. That's what I have problems, because they would do stuff like you're trying to get to a thing. They would get out of these holes.
See, and I can attest my wrestling era will tell you exactly why I don't think we should do co-ed sports.
Yeah.
Because I'm going to tell you every single boy on that team was trying to cop a field and get away with it.
Yeah. And it's right there in the middle of the map. I'm just trying to get a hold. Yeah, I'm just trying to get
opera for rednecks. There you go, Steph.
Yeah. Well, they're giving the turn. I almost wore my Austin 316 shirt for the record. So, yeah.
How many people that were athletic at all as geeks took inspiration from the battle scenes and the fight scenes in Star Trek, from the martial arts stuff and the weaponry stuff that Michael Dorn did, to the sword fighting and stuff like that in Princess Bride? These things inspired not just technology advances, but nerd culture. It also helped a lot of us get active, find athleticism that we were interested in, find something beyond just book smarts and get involved. And to that, there's a great gratitude to those things. But there's also that little side note. Don't try to sword fight with tent poles, especially 80s tent poles.
No.
To those who were too young to remember this, Iron, I'm looking at you, sweetie. Tent poles up until the mid-90s were not these little flexi poles and stuff like they are now. They were metal poles that were about this big around.
Nice long aluminum
were
shafts.
Hollow and solid at the same time. So they were very solid metal that was hollowed in the center. And you hooked them together point by point, and they'd have little joints in the center to help them hook together at points where they had to bend. And
there were more javelins than anything else.
We had popped it up in the yard so we could make sure there were no leaks, that all the parts were there. All that kind of stuff. And we collapsed it down, and we were taking it down. We were supposed to put it away for Mom and Dad. And Mom and Dad ran some errands because technically my older brothers were old enough to babysit. And me and my sister decided that we really wanted to see how hard the cliff scene was in Princess Bride to recreate. So we went out into the yard and grabbed a tent pole each and started sword fighting.
Oh, God.
To be fair, she was playing the bad guy at least. I mean, Well, kind of bad guy. You know, they're both part of the heroes team, but which one was part of the kidnappers at that point? You know. So we've gotten most of the way through the scenes and stuff, and we actually figured out how to do most of the movements. And we got to the point of the switching hands and stuff, and she tried to, and she does this little flip step forward as she tripped and landed and flung with momentum and hit me in the lip here and went through and cut this big hole out of my lip and chipped the teeth behind it.
Hence the scar.
And why I talk out of the side of my mouth part of the time. Yeah. I have nerve damage. It's also why my lips aren't the same color. I was 6. Damn it. It was her fault. She was the older sibling that was supposed to be watching me, and instead she went, "Hey, let's sword fight with pit bulls."
I mean, you know, reserve that kind of activity for yardsticks or stuff, you know, or actually, you know, or actually just get toy swords, you know.
So, but this stuff was always, I had a rough childhood. My inspiration was sci-fi and novels and comics and heroes and any escapism I could play where I didn't have to be this disabled fucking kid spazzing out all the time. That was my inspiration. That was uplifting to me.
Yeah.
I feel like crying right now because he's not here, and I know I'm not saying he's trying to do it to us.
No, I think he's
right now.
Like I said, I'm looking up Facebook. He's not even online right now, so he might be held up somewhere. So
or fell asleep because he was dealing with a family emergency yesterday.
Well, it's yesterday. Yeah, we'll see what happens here.
So there's any number of things, but I mean,
this
stuff gives me anxieties because I have these issues. I have all these issues, but I remember all these things as a child vividly.
Yeah.
People don't know if they haven't been through it, just how hard some of this stuff can really be.
Yeah.
And that's why our movement to fight for escapism is so important. That's why sci-fi, fantasy, mythology, all this stuff is such a vital part of how we develop sociology of people. It's such a vital part to how we find a common ground with people we don't agree with on everything, because we're never going to agree with everyone on everything.
That was kind of the founding thing of the fandom menace when it came, and it kind of lost steam. And
you mean they all went into their own egos and fucked off?
Yeah, and it turned into the usual, you know, internecine battle.
Backstabbing high school
fandom always does. Yeah, it goes into weirdness. The fandom always does after a while. Why am I keep putting the invite when I share?
I'm not trying to say that vindictively. There's a lot of people from that movement I love dearly. I still believe in the cause, but the people not so much.
Like I said, the fandom menace as it is right now is pretty much non-existent. It's scattered now. There's no cohesion.
It defuncted itself because they all got into their egos. See, Iron, I loved it because I believe in the cause, but I hate what the people became.
I mean, I've got several videos labeled as, you know, fandom menace production when I'm doing a Star Wars thing. So let's get that out of the way. Let's throw up a few things here of what the discussion is going to be about here. Namely, this poor girl who's just recently resurfaced. Let's get a few things rearranged here so we can go through it, because now we're getting to the point where it's like, okay, we're going to hit the ground running once he appears. And get a look at just what the hell we're looking at here. So this was the initial picture again. Because I want to get, you know, a somewhat expert eye on them. I mean, granted, this is, you know, this thing went into hiding, you know, before Doug even actually worked on it. It went around the time of the motion picture was being developed. And for this part of the reason why it disappeared, because it got loaned out to those who, frankly, should have known better. But they needed it for reference and preparing to build their own model of the refit Enterprise. And they also got their hands on the Klingon D7 from the Smithsonian. And if they treated this model, which appears they did, the same way as that D7, it's like, one, it's a reason why the Smithsonian no longer loans out anything because of what they did to that poor thing.
Iron, yes, it's finally been found.
Is it up here? Yeah, there we are. Let me get back in here. We pull up all these other things. This is what they did to this poor thing. I mean, there's the dome. At least they kept that. But that's where it used to be. There's also, watching a few videos going around there, and that actually is one of the proofs that this is the actual model, because that was present from the very beginning, the first publicity. In fact, let's see, where have I got one? Nope, that's not it. I just pulled up every picture I got right now. All like 16 that were on eBay. But it's like some people, well, it looks like that's what. No, that's not where they hung it from. That's the Mylar tape peeling away, just from age. Because there's a lot of little bits of Mylar, and ironically, this thing is on backwards because that bit goes in front. But also, the picture somewhere in here of sitting on Roddenberry's desk, and this thing had some damage beforehand, like the hangar deck doors are missing. That's from before. That was during the series. But when it was on his desk, both intercoolers are missing from this nacelle. They were present on the opposite nacelle, but they were missing. So, in fact, they really weren't paying attention to what they're doing. One, they put it on backwards and on the wrong nacelle. Let's see. But yeah, some of the stuff, like they basically what apparently happened is they tried to take the models apart to do some molds and preparing to make their own version of it. And it never dawned on them until too late. These models were not designed to be taken apart. Hoping to find a publicity picture somewhere here. Because I know I got one up here. There we go. Yeah, that little blemish in the deflector housing, there it is right there. And this picture's from like 66. But also that microphone stand bit, that was there. Because there's a picture here somewhere of, not that one. Yeah, and this was also one of the details that kind of lends credibility. In fact, this is the real one because no one knew about this. That's the guy who built the thing, and he taped his business card to the bottom of the stand. And that's one of the things like nobody knew about that. So that's kind of like, ooh, that's interesting. Let's see what we got here. That's another one of the nacelle. But here's looking up here. Like anywhere that, because one, okay, water damage. No, not water damage. This is where they tried to cover up what they did. Because wherever they got this little different colored gray paint, that's where they slapped on some paint to try and cover the damage up. And like you can tell, they popped this part off to get a molding of it. And that again, I can only assume that 12 to 16 volt, that's, probably just a note he made on the card because he also did some model railroad stuff. And that looks more like we're at the notation of, thing. But there's that again. And here, yep, the mic stand, and again, showing a better look at that deflector housing. And also, I just noticed here, you can see the fishing line or the thread they got here. They just tied a loop around the nacelle, around the strut there, and then around the neck. So there weren't any little eye holes in it. It was just, and so there. It's also apparently missing the sphere on the back of that nacelle. The old black and white picture. All right, one of these is going to be Shatner with a thing here.
Well, I have to go get something out of the other room real quick. That's
okay. Yeah, we're right here. You can see
that talking, and maybe he'll show up while I'm gone.
Yeah, right here. Intercoolers are missing from this nacelle right here. They're both present here. So it was already missing 2 nacelles when they loaned it out. Well, let me get zoom in a little closer here. Yeah, it's still got the little bibs there, but it's missing. It's already missing the nacelles there, so who knows what happened there? But they're both present there. But when it shows up again, one of these poor jobs now stuck on the wrong, on the opposite nacelle. So like, okay, you guys really weren't paying attention when you did this, were you? And here we go. And some of the pictures of the thing, you can show a little better that it's on the stand. It's probably on this very stand. maybe not with a plaque, but it's got, you know, the little mic stand, and he's holding it kind of weird where his other hand is not really there. It's just sort of like, you know, open arms. But he's not really holding the model at all. The model is on the stand. Let me start minimizing some of these here. But this was made just to show some of the details there. And this, you know, looks like it had some weathering to it, but I'm not sure. Let's minimize the publicity pictures there now, so I know these. But like some people point out, you can even see some of the wood grain on mainly the underside. Let's see, let's put that down. Let's see, it's somewhere in here. There, I think this. No, not that one. One of these has got the. God, get out of the bloody way. No, I'm not doing text. Get out of it. Change that because I was working on the picture earlier. Yeah, that, you know, at least someone had the forethought to save the dome. You know, the lower sensor dome. But there's in the length of the thing all the way up and then to the front of the sausage. So yeah, that verifies the length. Then yep, that's the length of this thing. A little over 33 inches. And they lost the homing beacon on there. These things so damaged where they, you know, wrenched these things out with the struts out. And here we got the thing. This doesn't look so much as weathering, though. This looks like just plain, I don't know, they tried to clean it up or something, just smeared some of the dust around. But somewhere in here, yeah. And again, more of this little bad paint job, which means they also managed to get the saucer off and the neck out. And thank God they stopped before they tried to get the dish out. In other words, maybe it popped out easily on its own. They stick it back in there to fine, but at the very least, thank God it survived. But this, but right here on the, let's see, we got another one of that, and they sell. Now this strikes me as when they wrenched this thing out, I think they may have pulled out a chunk of the hull along with it, because again, this was not meant to be taken apart. And this right here, this would go because anyone say, "Oh, look, that ship had the same nacelle droop as the AMT model." This model did not have a nacelle droop. These nacelles were straight on this thing. This is a bad glue job. You can tell we're just going to blob the glue there and paint it over it, and hoping nobody would notice. And apparently, somebody had enough brains. No, Roddenberry's going to notice it. He's going to kill us. So suddenly, no, we don't know what happened to the model. We don't know who got it. It's just sort of, you know, disappeared. We, you know, because the official story goes that that. So I can pull up the letter. Nope, not that. Get out of that. The 1 3-footer. There's the letter that Roddenberry wrote back in November '79. We're well into production at this point because the movie comes out December 7th. And it's like, when am I getting my models back, basically? It's a during part of pre-production on a film about a year and a half ago. So, yeah, this is back in, let's see. So a year would be November 17th. So early 78. He loaned this model out. And, you know, going through John Pavel, his assistant. They want to borrow the model for, you know, for research and things. Okay, fine. But he didn't remember who he handed it to, and it's somebody at Robert Abel and Associates, but nobody could, you know, identify who picked it up and who got it, and it's like doesn't remember the date or who he gave it to, and nobody. Then again, they there's a story on Trek News Daily. Again, they had to school the writer a bit. Oh, they got fired because they couldn't handle the model. No, they got fired because they didn't deliver any usable effects. The model was a side note, but the main thing is like we spent how many millions of dollars and you haven't done anything. You know, you got the one effect on the bridge, and that still looks stupid, even if they try and fix it.
I don't know.
He remembers picking it up and delivering it to somebody who was officially associated with the thing, and then it disappeared. And again, all they wanted was he just wanted to get the model back. This thing was not cheap at the time, and then again, it's like, and the forward, again, Pavel got, but also Leonard Maislis is Roddenberry's lawyer. I wonder how good a lawyer he really was, because for years they kept trying to sue Paramount to get back royalties for the show, and it wasn't until he teamed up with Bill Shatner and his lawyer that something finally moved. So which tells me that Bill Shatner's got a much better lawyer than Roddenberry did.
Still not online?
Let me check here. Not yet. All right, I'm going to throw something. We're stalling best we can. Fire.
Oh.
Okay. But yeah, this poor thing has been through the mill, and some people say, no, leave it as is. It's Battlestar. But I think they've ruined the paint job on this thing. So it's like there's no point trying to preserve anything. But like I said, some people say, took this, looking at it looks water damage. No, that's trying to cover up the scene of the crime. Because it's like it looks like water. No, I think that's a crack in the wood. And I think that's when they tried to pull up, and a chunk of the hull came out with it. It's falling like that.
Mm-hmm.
No. And again, there was damage already to the poor thing. Because, like I said, it was missing the intercoolers over here. It's been missing the hangar doors since God knows. And again, you got to replicate them. Might as well do a full restoration of it. Carefully take it apart and reset some of these pieces. Maybe find some replacement for this. There's little bits of Mylar tape on here. Make it look shiny, Make it look kind of lit up. I'm kind of wondering how, because this thing is backwards, but it's like it's still got the thing that goes on the front of the intercooler, but that they sell. Still, let's see, where are we? Get some of these out of the way here. Yeah, also thinking about the flat part of it. That also another clincher. That this is the real deal. Because some guy tried to go, what do we know? We don't know how many models there were made of it. Like, no, there was only one model made of this type. This was it. It was just much more. No, this was a proof of concept model. Let's minimize it here and get that down there, and that's where the measuring tape is. Let's see where. Come on, somewhere in here there's a. Yeah, because this one still has both of those nibs there. So I'm wondering, in fact, all four of them are present there. So did one of these split? Those look kind of skinny there. So I wonder what's going on here with that. So. But yeah, probably people say, "Yep, you can see the wood grain underneath there." Which is, if you look carefully on the publicity thing, you can kind of see it on the. No, not that one. On the underside of the hull. If I can get a good picture of the underside of the hull. Apparently, folks have some, more higher def pictures of this thing. But yeah, those of us who have made a thing of studying this thing, because there's one guy, Dave Shaw, the artist, he worked up some plans of this thing. In fact, I've got him on there, but he
Albert.
And in detail, all the little differences between this and the 11-footer, including the way the nacelles attached to the struts, the different angle. Yeah, I don't think. Yeah.
Well,
I don't know. Because there's only so much we can do here, kids. Okay.
Yeah, and I was taking time out of a stream. I help co-host every Sunday to do this.
Yeah.
So.
All right. Well, tell you what. I'll go. Well, let's see. How long have I been at this here? So we got this for 45 minutes. Well, I will keep all other stuff up. I think I'll go ahead and if it shows up, we'll throw it back up. But for now, I think we'll go and wrap it up for now. Yeah, this was scheduled. He was aware. He was favorite, but something happened that.
Yeah, let him know
he's away from his computer.
We can make a new link whenever he's ready. Yeah. But I'm going to go over to the other for the meantime.
Okay. All right.
Besides, I want blood, and trust me, there's going to be when I go to the other one.
All right.
There's an incident I'm going to deal with.
Okay.
So.
Okay, so I'm going to message him here. We'll start this back up when you're ready.
I'm going to go ahead and take this down off mine for now.
All right. And again, hopefully we'll be able to restart this again fairly soon.
Bye.
Maybe within the hour. Who knows? But we will talk at you later.